Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our TGT podcast, which is in much, much better spirits than it was 2 weeks ago, it's fair to say, after Arsenal have turned things around. And we're chatting to you the day after Arsenal win 2-0 against Wolverhampton. I'm joined by three fantastic people to discuss the game and plenty more. First off, it's my right-hand man at the TBP podcast, which will be recording tomorrow. Some exciting stuff, talking about Red Bull Salzburg. So yeah, imagine me how happy I am going to be about that. It's Drew. How you doing, fella?
I'm good. We'll leave it there. Moving forward.
I'm glad to see you're here and smiling. And people could see you because you hid away last time. Well, you were doing some carjacking, weren't you? I think, if I remember rightly.
100%. And the jig was up on the show, so, you know, I'm not in jail now, which is good.
Unbelievable. Kenny Ken, it's good to have you back. I'm hearing, though, that you are hiding away the hair at the moment underneath that hat.
I'm afraid so, Tom. What's happened is I haven't been able to go to the barbers since March, where a lovely man cut my hair. And since then, it's just growing all over the place. It goes high and it's like slanted, like it's pretty long at the back. So I'm going to have to wear a haircut. And my brother will go absolutely ballistic if he sees my hair on anyway, because he's always telling me to sort my hair out.
I mean, I'm sure it looks lovely, man. I'm sure it looks brilliant.
No, it doesn't.
I think you should reveal it.
No, not at all.
I'm a complete hypocrite at the moment, so I'll leave it there. One man who does not have to worry about a certain haircut problem at the moment is Danny. How you doing, mate?
I'm very good, Tom. Gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me.
No worries. I mean, the last time we spoke to you, you were doing your top 5 show on the show, which was good fun. Enjoyed that.
Did, and I read someone use some of the bits, some of those players in a blog a little while after, and I thought maybe they'd stole it from your show.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I love being a trendsetter. It's nice. It's finally nice not being able to take ideas and start ones instead. I mean, I'm not going to say I invented top 5s. That'd be a bit ridiculous. But no, it's nice to see that people are talking about players they hadn't originally heard of before. So there's certainly players in the team that played yesterday that people are certainly a little bit more educated on these days. The likes of Bukayo Saka, Willock, all these players that 2-3 years ago we really hadn't heard too much about, but have burst onto the scenes. And we're going to start there. Drew, obviously, in this game against Wolves, in these 4 matches that was prepped, Wolves, Liverpool, Leicester, Spurs, I looked upon Wolves as the team were second hardest, really, behind Liverpool. So to get a win away from home against this side that were touted as the informed side in the league, it's a special win, isn't it?
It is. I feel like you kind of quoted me in what you just said as a little jab. Like, see, you know.
Every single time I ask you a question on the show, you're getting more critical of them. This is ridiculous.
I'm allowed to. No, it is a very good win. But I think we kind of all agreed, you know, it would take a really good performance to get something, not just a win, but just a point. Wolves deserve full credit for where they've been all year, how they've been playing their recent form, as you said, inside team informed team in the league. But we played really well, and I think it's not very often we could say that. Even when things have gone well under Arteta, you would say, you know, it was a decent performance. They showed spirit, but there are a lot of things we needed to work on. I think this was probably our most consummate performance all season. And it's in a period where we're growing in confidence. Our players really seem to fit to their roles that they're being tasked to do. Everything came out really well, apart from maybe 1 or 2 moments that you thought maybe we were going to revert back to old habits. We snapped out of it. And in recent months and recent years, maybe we wouldn't have had that light bulb moment. We would have reverted to old habits, and then it would have capitulated completely. But you saw the mental strength that's growing in the side, especially amongst the young players as well. It's really encouraging. And again, I think, you know, one thing that maybe people will give more credit now to, despite the criticisms before, is Arteta's in-game management. And this performance was brilliant. He did an excellent job of the way he handled the subs, the way he was changing things up on the fly tactically, you know, just knowing when to counter, what, you know, wanted to do on his end. It was a really professional performance, not just from the players, but the manager. And I think we could all be confident with that moving forward to a period where we need maximum points and anything becomes possible. So,
yeah, Kenny, I mean, Drew brings up a really good point about the in-game management, because the Brighton game was sort of highlighted as the inexperience of Arteta shining through, weird substitutions. He didn't really grasp the game too well. And now it looks a complete paradox when we're looking at the game that we've just witnessed. Do you put that down to just a mistake possibly against Brighton, or have things just really come to the fore now with this momentum that's behind us and the confidence that the manager's now got?
Well, it's a combination of things. If you first and foremost, what Mikel's doing now is he's learning about his players. He hasn't really developed a system of play as yet. What he's trying to do is that he started off when he first came to the club, where he was trying to develop a style that suits the commodities that he has at his disposal. So he tried a lot of things, and I think that's what and another thing as well is his man management as well. Giving the naughty boy sweets and the good boy sweets. So that's trying to get people on the ball. But you compare Brighton to Wolves. The thing that's kind of stands out was not so much just his substitutions as well, which I thought that that he could have done differently, should have done differently. It's the formations as well. If you noticed before, he was trying to play like a refined 4-3-3, but what he's doing now is that he's giving these midfielders like Ceballos, and he's giving Xhaka protection by playing a back three and playing wing backs. So what's happened is that when Wolves do try to hit us from the counter attack, he's not only is he playing the high line, what he's doing as well is that he's making us like a 5, which means Wolves have got a wall to try and get past. When we played Brighton, what happened? If you look at the goals, the first goal he conceded, Ceballos wasn't wide awake. But in terms of like what happened yesterday, is that whenever our midfields probably went walkies, you still had that sort of our wing backs to give us some sort of protection, and I think that's where Mikel's done a lot of things differently. And I think another thing as well is that by giving Xhaka and Ceballos protection, it's enabled them to be more offensive and try and get some balls to our forwards. One thing I would say though, I was shouting at Mikel from about for the 45th minute to the 80th minute, because I was thinking, for the love of God,
because he didn't play Ozil, was that right?
No, it's not that. It's because we if you look at the game, we were struggling to hold the ball up with not so much with a banger, but it's definitely with Eddie. And I was thinking, can we just get someone to hold the ball up? Bring on Lacazette so we can hold the ball up, so the ball couldn't keep coming back. So before that, the ball kept on coming back, and I was a bit worried in that sort of situation. But when we did bring on Lacazette on, not only did he score, he held the ball up and he gave Wolves a lot to think about. Another thing as well, Wolves ran out of ideas as well. But one thing I would like to end on is that we won ugly, and that's what I've always wanted. It was an ugly win. Certain things I didn't like in terms of sometimes off the ball we were still making a few errors I didn't like, and we weren't holding the ball up and putting ourselves under pressure. But sometimes you have to be able to win when you're not playing that great.
Yeah, no, I like the words "win ugly" because it's something that we're not able to associate with Arsenal too much at all. Really, we kind of saw it in a sense too much, maybe with Emery, that games were won, or not even won, but just games were just ugly rather than winning. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why he was so unpopular amongst the fan base. Danny, though, focusing on our opponents, were you surprised at how, I don't want to use the word poor, but I mean, Wolves managed one shot on target throughout the entire game, and for a side that was touted as the most informed side in the Premier League, they didn't affect the game like I thought they would.
Well, it's the most impressive players for me, apart from the fact I lost a quiz midweek because I thought Jimenez was spelled Jimenez, but it's Jimenez. That's why I've never heard of the poor bloke until this game. But like Kenny was saying,
Rodriguez as well.
Knew about that one. But then Moutinho in midfield and Neves and Jota. Jota had a magnificent season last season for them. No, because you could be right and I wouldn't even know. But like Kenny was saying with Traore, we did to Traore what every team has done to Arsenal's flair players for the last couple of seasons. He was getting a right battering all over the place, and that seemed to be the only way that we were going to stop them, because this is one of the games we were coming up to, and I thought we have got no chance of going to their place and beating them, because they'll out-flare us, they'll out-skill us, they'll out-score us, and they're centre-backs with fantasy football. They're centre-backs with one of the first three, not the ones that are there, but some of the ones they had last season, some of the ones from this season, were one of the first cheap threes that you're going to pick, because you're going to go, well, they're magnificent. They very rarely let in goals. But it's just the whole way that they lined up. I don't think they watched any of our previous couple of games, because the way that now that I know what an inverted wing back does, I think that's the right thing. I love the way Ceballos and Mustafi would have a thing. You'd watch them and you'd see Mustafi make a move up and then Ceballos would go back and then Ceballos would be waving to Mustafi, go and get back again. And he'd be pulling into midfield. Xhaka's just doing in there. And I think having Xhaka back in the team has made such a difference because before, when we had Ceballos and Guendouzi or whoever else who was going to play, you wouldn't have anybody there to soak it up, break up play and give the ball away. And I mean, Xhaka got himself a booking, but I was thinking of these poor players. If you're someone like Traore with all the skill in the world and you're running down and you see Xhaka and Kolasinac coming up to you, you're going to think, oh God, get me crash helmet because I'm going to get walloped. But yeah, I was surprised because they're still a really good team. But look at Southampton. Is it Southampton now beating Man City 1-0 with 10 minutes to go? The league's mad at the moment. Yeah, and
the Man City game, I was just for Expert and Plus members, they'll get tomorrow morning. I was just recording a show for them with John, Miami John at 305 Class. And we were talking about City and how basically we thought that we have no chance in this semi-final. But then Southampton go and put on a decent performance, and maybe without some of their players, things will change. But the teams, as you highlight, there are some really strange things happening in this league. I'm sure we'll come on to sort of predictions about where we might end up a little bit later in the show. Just before I throw back to the guys and let Drew come in on that quickly, I just want to throw to the chat and see what some of you guys are saying. Mike Hernandez, long-time listener to the show and one of our members as well, says, I get nervous when the team absorbs rivals' attacks for long periods of time. Not sure if it's tactical or just how the game plays out and then Arteta reacts. I mean, I think that's probably something that's systematic from Emery's days of where he was so sure we wanted to absorb pressure for ages and then hit them on the counter. And it's just something I think that Arteta's going to gradually train out of these guys. We had a couple of other comments as well earlier on in the show, but Drew, I'm going to go to you, mate, because you wanted to touch on something.
Yeah, it's actually, and Mike kind of touched on it, and normally Mike and I agree on essentially everything, but this is kind of something where I would disagree. I think Wolves are a team that, for me, I think are better without the lion's share of possession, and we gave them the ball. And we took space away in behind. We didn't allow Traore to be able to hit us on the counter. The one opportunity he had to run into space is the time he almost scored that goal, when he scuffed it. But really, we kind of took away some of their really big danger areas. Even Jota going into space, I'm surprised he didn't start, but he killed us for pace into space last season when we played. So he absolutely destroyed us down down our right-hand side. And Traore, same thing. I think he's better on the wing than through the middle. And you saw him trying to drift to find that space throughout the match, and he just couldn't get it. And then when Maitland-Niles came on in that cameo, and then getting that really good recovery pace in as well, he wasn't allowing him to have that space. And I think that was part of Arteta's plan. Wolves are a team that thrive on the counter. They have players through the middle with Dendoncker and Neves and Moutinho who can ping a really good ball 30, 40 yards off the top and spring Traore. Jimenez is very good with his back to goal. Traore and Jota play off him quite well. But we denied them all those opportunities. I don't think that was a mistake. I think Arteta set out with that match plan. I think that kind of threw a monkey wrench into Wolves as, the axle for lack of a better term. And it really kind of hit them pretty hard. And I think that's something we're going to see more, and something you see in better managers. And I'm not trying to jump the gun on Arteta at all, but better managers will adapt to their opponent and try to take away their strong suits and build a match plan based on how to nullify their strengths and weaknesses while also trying to play their game when we're in possession. I think that's the balance that Emery got wrong. I think he was so worried about the opposition, he didn't consider himself enough of what we were going to do when we had the ball. But you see with Arteta, he countered Wolves, but when we had the ball, you saw us when we grew into the match. How we wanted to play moving forward as the match progressed, and I think that's one of the highlights we're going to have to pay attention to for the rest of the season. If we keep getting better in that area, we'll be in really good shape. So,
yeah, I think it's the point about how it's about finding the balance between playing your own game and then taking into account what the opponent is going to provide as a threat. During the Invincibles documentary, is a quote from Arsene Wenger, that when the Invincibles were playing so well, they didn't even consider their opponents. They just played football. And I think that's something that Arsenal fans would love to see this side get back to. It's just focusing on the game they know they can play with the quality that they have. And I think that we were, under Emery, as you highlighted, were so the other direction and so worried about what the opposition were capable of doing. And I think it's important that there are elements of that. A lot of people I saw were criticising Adama Traore. And I don't think that was right. I think that, as you mentioned, Arteta just nullified him. It took us three players, Kolasinac, Tierney, and then Ainsley Maitland-Niles, to nullify Traore's impact on the game. But tactically, it worked, and it was really good at stopping them from what they were able to do. Kenny, moving on to sort of other players on the pitch, focusing on the midfield. I'm really intrigued by this pivot of Ceballos and Xhaka. Ceballos had arguably his best game since Burnley when we played against Norwich at home the other day. He had a less effective game, I thought, against Southampton because he wasn't able to impact the game like he would in an attacking game against Norwich. But I feel as though the pair actually surprisingly provide a fair amount of defensive cover, which when you think about them only having the two midfielders with a back five or three or however you want to call it, are you surprised at how effective Xhaka and Ceballos are being on these games?
Not really at all, because you've got to realise that since Xhaka's came back into the side after the Crystal Palace at home, where obviously you know my views on it, I was back to back, although I have had criticisms of his overall play. As a man, as what I saw on the ground, I backed the player. And since then, he hasn't let us down. You've got to realise what Xhaka gives us. He gives us some sort of control. We all know what Xhaka can't do, but what he does really well. Gives us control in midfield, and he's a fantastic long passer of the ball from distances. In terms of Ceballos as well, he's very good in terms of like creativity part and trying to feed the forwards. So in that respect, I do like that situation because, as you said with our good friend Unai Emery, when he plays, like Xhaka and Torreira, it's all about trying to stop the opposition from making a counter-attack and trying to defend from the front by getting Torreira to play further forward. And I think with Arteta, because the need is actually to win some games, playing those two together is something that Mikel has found a way, because as we know, before the lockdown, Mikel was trying someone else in that sort of position. We don't know, obviously that's another show which you can have at the end of the season, but he does seem to shoehorned Ceballos into that sort of position. Because if you look at the game against Man City, first minute Xhaka gets injured. You look, who is he playing in the midfield? It was Ceballos and Xhaka in order to get us attacking and try and feed our pacey players. So in that respect, I do like what Mikel's doing. I think the reason why it's working a lot more is because of the fact that Mikel has protected them by playing like a back three. Because if you look at Xhaka, if you sort of rewind back 3 years ago, after Crystal Palace, where you got fresh, Arsene Wenger played a back three from the season onwards, which culminated with a game at semi-final in Man City. And then when we played a back three, you actually saw Xhaka playing his best football. So I do think that with the back three, you will see better performances from Xhaka and also better performances for Ceballos. It's a temporary thing as well, because we're going to have to learn to get them to play their best football in other systems. But for now, that's why I think that they are profiting, because what's happening is that if they do manage to go walkies, we do have win-backs to fill those positions that they may leave.
Danny, let's have a chat about some of the players that have sort of burst onto the scene. I mean, that's probably the wrong description for the player that I want to talk about in a sense. He certainly burst onto the scene at the end of the Norwich game, Cedric Soares. Soares, I'm not really sure how you pronounce the other part of his name. But he was started, which was a surprise in itself against Wolves. I kind of thought that Ainsley Maitland-Niles might start on that side and Bellerin wouldn't really get a look in with how his form has been recently. But he was interested in the game because I saw obviously there was an arguable penalty shout when Jimenez, or Jimenez as you want to call it, against in the box, which could have been a penalty. But I really like the physicality of his performance. Are you liking seeing the Portuguese start?
Yeah, he's got nothing to lose, has he? He's come in here. It looked like the contract. Everyone was saying, why have you given him a 4-year deal? Well, straight away we've seen why he's got the 4-year deal. Right back, left back, right wing back, left wing back, can happily come into the central midfield. We can play him up front if we need to, if Lacazette's having a bad day, because he's got a magnificent. He scores 1 goal in every 2 games for Arsenal, which is a record that not many strikers have. So it's been really, I just love the way that everything about him. He's coming in with no fear. He's a Portuguese international. He's played at the highest level in Portugal. And when he was at Southampton, he was one of their best players. I think we've got him on that 4-year deal. We paid about 5 million for him, did we?
It would be about that in terms of wages and stuff, I think, yeah.
It's just fantastic. But then just the way that the playing, because Arteta likes a left-footed left back, a right-footed right back, and then he's got Luiz in the middle. And so then when Luiz goes forward with the ball, like back in the days when you'd have Desai or someone like that, a player playing at centre-back who can bring the ball out, and his passing ability is brilliant. So when he does that, the two fullbacks become two wing backs become fullbacks, and it makes four at the back. I was watching a little bit yesterday, and then he's doing that, like he was saying, the inverted winger. Now that I know what that is, I'm never going to shut up about it. Josh explained it to me. I thought inverted the opposite. So I thought, hold on, an inverted wing back is someone who just goes backwards, isn't it? Apparently not. Goes into midfield, and then those other things like that. It's a player that I really like, and I thought it was really interesting yesterday when, like we were saying, Traore was running down that right wing, turning everyone inside out. And so when he took off Tierney, because Tierney is doing amazing to still be coming back from the injury and running around like he's doing, I thought straight away Cedric was going to go at left back, but then you kind of hinted at it earlier on in the show when you said that Mainsley was sent to play at left back because he's full of energy. And I think Traore was going to think, here we go, I'm going to get the best of him down this side. And some of those tackles that Mainsley put in were brilliant. But I think having so many options, because that's what we needed. Because if we didn't have Cedric in the team, we were going to have to play Bellerin all the time. And Mainsley's already said he doesn't want to play at right back. So I know after the game, Saka come out.
I don't know if you saw, there was an interesting interview with Mainsley, as you corrected me there. And he actually said that he was misquoted in that interview. And he said that actually he will play where Arteta wants him to play. He just wants to play now. And maybe it's been a shock to the system that he's been taken out. But sorry, carry on.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. When Saka was interviewed after the game, and Saka, they said, "What's your best position?" He went, "I'll play wherever the manager wants me to play." So I don't think anyone is going to be that young and come in and go, no, unless you play me in the position I want to play in, I'm not going to play. So we saw that Mainsley came on, played brilliantly at left back, nullified Traore for the rest of the game. Cedric has got the ability to play anywhere, and it's like a Jules Grimandi, a Remy Gard kind of player. So we need those players that can play in any of the defensive positions, and he has done really well. I don't think there's any Arsenal fan that is going to go, nah, don't rate him. I think he's had two really important games for himself and the club.
Yeah, Avon says Mainsley said that he would go in goal as long as it gets him on the pitch, and that's just, I feel like those quotes, even though he said that he was misquoted, I feel like those quotes wouldn't have been sort of corrected under Unai Emery in a weird way. I feel like these players want to play for Arteta. They will play anywhere. As Saka said, this is someone that effectively had Arsenal by the nutsack in terms of his contract. He had a year left. He could have demanded whatever he wanted. But this guy has signed a new deal and said that he will play wherever the manager wants him to play because he's honoured to play for this club. And I'm loving that is sort of the theme that's running throughout this side now. And if Aubameyang ends up signing a deal and there's an interview of him and I'm expecting to see some similar words come from him, hopefully. I know that it's a very, very different scenario that is a lot more financially driven. And you can expect that from someone going into their final big contract, arguably, of their career. But I'm hoping that we start to see this theme of the team, we're basically one with the manager. And I hope that continues forward. Drew, it's always the way that there are some other things that we need to discuss about a game that we've won and was so great. There was one player that I was quite critical of throughout the game, and that was Kolasinac. If you were in our WhatsApp chat and you were looking at Miami John was going absolutely mental at Kolasinac. He was going off his nut about Kolasinac. And every time he misplayed a pass, I'd be getting another text through saying, why are we playing this guy? But I feel like the guy is important to this role that Tierney has been given, but he just doesn't seem quite accomplished enough in a passing sense. Do you like him in this left centre-back role? Do you think tactically it's working, or do you think we need to improve?
No, it doesn't work. I really think the only reason why he's there is because Mari is not fit. If Mari was fit, I'm sorry?
Get off the fence for once. Make a decision.
No, shut up. Like I said, I feel like if he wouldn't be playing if Mari was fit. Mari's left-footed. Yeah. It's clear that Arteta wants a left-footed left centre-back if he's going to play a back three. I think that's the only reason why he's playing. And so I don't think we should get attached to it. I mean, you can also understand that, he does bring a physical presence as well. But if you're going to play in that role, especially if Tierney's going to, or whoever the left back is, if Ainsley now started there for whatever reason as well, they're going to be asked to go up further forward. So you need your left center back and your right center back as well on the other side to be better with their decision making, to make the better passes. And Kola just seems to, as John so elegantly put in the WhatsApp group, he can't just make a bleeding decision like in the right way. He is always picking the wrong pass. There are some players who just can't adapt to a specific role, and it just seems like we have a better left back and left wing back than Tierney than he is, and I think the only reason why he'll play is once Mari's fit, I think he's done, and for me it just kind of shows. You have that debate where the 99% of footballers in the world are all system players because most players don't transcend tactical systems and what managers need, but he's like an uber system player. He was very good at Schalke, but his tasks were very simple at Schalke. Here, you're required to be way more expansive. You need to be better on the ball. Technically, you need to be very good. You need to be able to pick the right pass to see the passing chains, and these are things that he clearly struggles with. So, yeah, I mean, again, just for me, I don't think we'll be seeing him next season at all. I would be shocked if the club kept him, to be honest with you, because, again, someone like a Saka can come in and deputize for Tierney if Tierney wasn't fit. But yeah, even if he wants to play further forward, we still have that option. For the left back role, not for left center back, and presumably we're going to have about 26 center backs at the club according to some next season, so we should be fine there for cover. So yeah, no, it's just it's frustrating, but you just kind of hope he improves because it's a pretty pivotal role for us moving forward until Mari's fit. So.
I love this comment. Uber system player Drew Thompson. Wash hands. Oh dear. It's just some of your Druinisms, as we're going to call them. I love that they come through all these podcasts, and you'll see more of them tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for the Tactical Breakdown podcast with Drew, and you'll hear some more of his Druinisms as we're going to start terming them. I can see from his face how excited he is about this term that I've just come up with.
The funny thing about this is that's something that my brother says, and some of my friends say Druisms. Yeah, because I have an interesting way of highlighting points of mine, and it's an actual thing. So, welcome aboard, everybody.
Let's get a hashtag Druism in the chat. I think Bulgarian Gooner, a fantastic comment. We're all Druids. Brilliant stuff. Kenny, sticking with sort of a negative turning into a positive, the guy that secured the win, Alexander Lacazette, comes off the bench and does the thing that we've waited so long to see him do, which was not only score away from home, even though I didn't really feel like it with no fans there, but the fact that he's taken the ball away from goal, the defender's goal side, he spins the defender like we've so characteristically seen him done so many times, and then put it past Raul Patricio. Do you foresee his confidence now changing and his form changing, or do you think, like it was last time when he scored on a bad run, this is sort of a pebble in a lake situation, it was a one-off, or do you think he will turn things around from now?
I think what people need to realise about Alexander Lacazette is that the guy's had injuries. He hasn't, since, when he first came to the club, he had a problem with his knee, and that's why Wenger was taking him off after like the 65th or 70th minute. And since then, he hasn't had an injury-free run. His probably best football was last season under Unai Emery, the much maligned Unai Emery. But if you look at this season, what Alex gives us is hard work, especially off the ball. He can hold the ball up a lot, and he's good with his back to goal. And that's one of the reasons why we can't play Aubameyang in that sort of position, where for the team, Aubameyang's better on the left-hand side, because the simple reason is that, Lacaz's hold-up play is, in my opinion, is far superior to Aubameyang's. And I think that's what a lot of fans look at when they see some of their players. They want all the sexy sort of moves. They want, like skills. They want 50 goals a season, but they don't look at the other aspects of the game, which actually wins you football matches, which is work rate. And you can't. There isn't a harder working strike at the club than Aubameyang. Eddie does have his moments, but Lacazette. But Lacazette is vital to the way that we play, and that's why I do get frustrated with a lot of our fans when they do have a go at him and say, "Oh, he's this, he's that, he doesn't score enough goals," and blah blah. But I don't care what anyone says. We've all been watching football all our lives, and I've never seen a football match where it's won without a player being able to hold the ball up and play with his back to goal in order to bring better players through and into positions where they can win football matches. I've never seen a football match like that, and that's why I never understand why Lacazette gets the criticism that he does get. Also, I don't understand why there's no empathy for the fact that he hasn't been fully fit when he played for us. What people are looking at is his goal rate when he was at Lyon, and they're expecting it when it comes to Arsenal. The Premier League is basically a litmus test for every footballer because of the simple reasons. It demands of you which other leagues don't demand of you. For instance, work rate, being, like as Drew says, good on the ball, being able to have the physicality to run up and down and keep on running for 90 minutes. Not like in other leagues where it's quick, slow, then quick at the in the last third. We're expected to play this sort of fast at all the times, and I think that's where probably Lacazette does struggle with. But in terms of where we play, he is definitely an asset, and I'll be very disappointed if he left the football club because there ain't many forwards out there like Lacazette who are going to give us that sort of work rate and the ability to play with his back to goal. But that is just my opinion. But a fit Lacazette will be an asset to any Arsenal side that is chosen for the future.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you raise up about the style that he plays in, because obviously we spent a lot of money to bring him in, and he was basically brought in as Arsenal's main striker at the time before we signed Aubameyang, and he did okay, but obviously with losing Alexis, we had to replace the goals that we lost with the Chilean, and we decided to bring Aubameyang in, who is naturally another striker, and that has meant that he's been shifted out to the left wing. It's important that we bring up the tactical side as you did, but for me, I feel like Lacazette, if we are in the supposed financial constraints that we're in currently, I feel that Lacazette is an asset that you could get quite a financial boost by moving on. And the role that you were describing, which is someone who holds the ball up against these physical teams up front, I feel that there are options out there that Arsenal could bring in for less money that can do that job and arguably possibly be more consistent and not be affected by the confidence issues that Lacazette is. Maybe I'm describing this as more of a fantasy, but for the role that you described, which was completely spot on and what Lacazette does really well, I just feel for the amount of money that we paid for and that we can still possibly get for him, there are players out there that could do that job just as well, and we could invest that money elsewhere to strengthen other areas of the pitch. That's just where I kind of see it. How do you feel about that? Is that something you go with, Kenny, or not?
Well, I definitely see it, because the fact of the matter is that, what the lockdown has done for all football clubs, particularly Arsenal, it's actually shown how much reliant we are from the TV money that we get from not just Sky, but the overseas stations like NBC in the USA, Open Sports in Australia. Without that money coming in, without having a match day and actually income coming to the clubs, we are, post lockdown, Lack is an asset that we have to look at, because what's going to happen. The board are going to say, well, you're going to have to sell some of your assets in order to give Mikel the money that he needs. And also, there's the biggest elephant in the room as well is probably something you'll discuss in other shows. Will he stay or won't he stay? We're talking about Aubameyang. So that is another issue. Do you sell Lacazette in order to facilitate a possible deal in order to increase Aubameyang's wages? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing about my issue with the Aubameyang thing is that we can offer him the full moves, but again, it's his decision. If he feels that he can win trophies with Arsenal, he'll stay. If he doesn't, he wants to, get in the Champions League, a competition he hasn't played for the last 3 years, then I've got I can't stand in his way if he wants to go to a Real Madrid or any other club that can give him the opportunity to win leagues and play in the Champions Leagues. I can't stand in his way, because at the end of the day, it's his career. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I kind of see it as we really can only keep one of them if the likes of Nketiah and possibly Martinelli, if we see them more of a central berth, can sort of develop. And I brought it up on the other day on the it must have been on the preview show, basically doing a Q&A, talking about how it might have actually been reacting to the Aubameyang possible contract. But if Aubameyang signs a 3-year deal, I think we would speak to Nketiah and Martinelli, and possibly it was in the talks which got the Martinelli deal done so soon, was that we see you as a possible future striker. Aubameyang could be signing for another 3 years, and that's the perfect amount of time that you've got now to transition and improve under such tutelage from an experienced player in Aubameyang, so that when his contract is up, you are then both Nketiah and Martinelli perfectly placed to replace that possible role. So
Paul Balogun though, eh? Because
it's sad state of affairs, that one. Yeah,
I think he's the best of the lot. The youngsters coming through, and I think that
John Jones is there as well, and
definitely. But in terms of Balogun, I suppose if you sign your first contract when you're 17, you can only sign a 2-year deal. So he's probably thought, well, I haven't made that progress since the first team, so why am I signing a new deal when you're not even picking me for cup games or League Cup games this season? So it's a conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough. It's real tough. Danny, I want to get your thoughts on the Lacazette thing, because I think it's certainly a topic which is going to divide a lot of people now and into the summer. Would you, if say an Atletico Madrid, I hate when people call it Atletico, when an Atletico comes in for the guy, would you say they've offered us 30 million? Is that like a fee that you would be interested in, or do you think we should be keeping this guy?
Arsenal are a club that don't have much money at the moment. So when we got diamonds, we need to keep hold of those diamonds. And he, not only is he the best looking bloke at the club, this guy, he's a good looking bloke with a magnificent beard. I nearly called him the French Giroud until I remember they were both French. But when you look at his time back playing in the Farmers League for Lyon, he'd be playing up front. He'd be playing like Alan Shearer, Andy Cole, Ian Wright up front. He got Nabil Fekir behind him, pulling the strings, making him look magnificent. When he's come to Arsenal, he's had to do a Giroud. If you when you're at the game, you see a lot more at the game than you do when you're on TV. But if you're at the game, you'd see how much running around he does. Like you'd see, like Ian Wright and Shearer and those poachers. They won't really move far away from the goal scoring opportunity areas. We saw yesterday. We saw Lacazette sprinting back into midfield, doing all that lot. The bloke's doing absolutely everything. He's had to completely change and adapt his game to be able to play as the lone striker. And I'd keep him, because Eddie isn't, as much as I love Eddie isn't ready to be the number one striker on his own in that position yet. I know we've got John Jules and we've got Balogun and we've got some other youngsters coming through, but we can't. We'll look back at this years to go and go, hold on, we got rid of Lacazette in his prime and Aubameyang in his prime, and then we ended up having no one. We can't do that. You need to keep those players at the club. And luckily with Martinelli, he can play in any one of the front 4 positions. Eddie is quite happy to do the same job that Lacazette is doing. And Lacazette, you say that has this goal done him any good? It's not going to make any difference to him, because he tries all game, every game. He never stops trying. And it's just bad luck. I mean, you look at Giroud, he went through the same thing, 16 games without a goal. Lacazette is a magnificent player, and we need to keep him. If he was rubbish, then Atleti wouldn't want him, would they?
Yeah, it's a solid point. I mean, if the interest is there on a player, it's obviously signalling something. Drew?
He might signalling something?
No, you don't know, are you secretly?
No. I mean, I don't actively want him to go either, and I just kind of feel like you would assume, just based off how much Nketiah is playing, if we did sell Lacazette, we wouldn't reinvest in another center forward. We would just start Nketiah through the middle, and I don't think he's ready to be the first number 9. I think long term he could easily hit that level, but he's not there yet. If we keep Oba, I highly doubt that he's just going to be the first choice there. If anything, if he does start central, he'll just be rotated with Lacazette sometimes, depending. But I mean, I agree with everything Danny's been saying, and I kind of mirrored similar thoughts. It's just it's absolutely clear that Arteta wants certain things and who he plays through the center forward channel, and Oba doesn't have it. And even someone like Aguero, who is pretty slight in stature, he still comes deep and he gets involved. He can play back to goal for someone who's kind of diminutive as a center forward as well. He's good on the ball. He knows how to pick out a decent pass. He combines play. Oba doesn't really, in an ideal world, do these things. It's not that he necessarily can't. It's not what he excels at. And you want to really kind of want to play him into space. He's a better technical footballer than what he does get credit for, but it's not the the best parts of his game. The best bits of his game is you take the shackles off and you let him run the channels. He's excellent at timing his runs. How many times has he timed his run to perfection and beat the offsides trap and gotten into space? Like that's what he does best. You don't want him dropping back to midfield to get involved. It's fine if Lacazette does that because that's kind of what his game has been molded into because he can handle those requirements. Opa can't. So, and then Nketiah is not ready to do that either. And I don't think even Martinelli would be in an ideal world. So you do have to kind of keep him, and maybe you keep him for one more season and then reevaluate yet again. But I don't think he'll see out his contract with the club, and I don't think we'll necessarily extend him either. I think when he's down to 12 months left, I think we'll actually, if he doesn't extend, I think we'll look to move him on anyway, just because we have so many young players that we clearly want to build through with the future. It also could depend on Oba. If Oba leaves, then you really have to keep Lacazette. You almost have to extend him at that point as well. So ball's in our court as well. We have a lot of options, which is good for us. Normally, we're kind of really clutching straws and hoping this one player stays because we have nothing else. We're not in that position right now, which is great. But yeah, there's certain things still have to, fall into place for us to kind of really be in a good spot moving forward. So,
I agree. I think genuinely.
Hey, sorry, Tom, can I just cut in 1 minute?
Oh, you can't.
Sorry. You know what Drew said, right? I've been trying to tell people this. A lot of friends at work, people on Twitter, exactly what Drew says about what Oba's good at and what Oba's not good at. I've been trying to say that right when Oba plays on the left, it's better for the team that he plays there. And Drew just took the words out of my mouth. I'm so glad that I'm not the only one who thinks that, because all I hear about is people going on on fan cams, on Twitter, in the workplace. How can you play Aubameyang any other place than centre forward? He has to play centre forward. He's the best striker in the world. And I'm thinking, well, hang on here. What about the team? Surely he serves the team better when he plays on that left-hand side. But Drew done it. Thanks, Drew.
Yeah. There you go. Lovely stuff. Isn't this nice? Do you remember the shows where you used to argue about Ozil non-stop? And now we're sitting here, all pals, loving life.
That's another show, Tom. For your
that's another 3 shows.
Yes. And me and Drew will never agree on that one. Never. Not even, no matter how much Drew tries.
Oh dear. Right, let's move on to the final section of the show, which we haven't been able to do too much because these shows have flown so well. We've had so much to talk about. And that's not to say this one hasn't. It's been great. But I really want to sort of move on to letting you guys in the chat box, because I haven't been able to do much interaction with you guys so far as the conversation's been flowing so great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a question section. So if you've got a question for the guys, please put a capital Q and then your question so it stands out for me in the chat and I can see it. Members will be getting priority, of course. So if you'd like to join us as a member and help support the channel and get access to exclusive content, please click that join button on the channel and get all that good stuff. But there was a question earlier on from someone from your parish, who I know quite well, Danny, and that's Josh from ABW, who says, if a big fee came in for Eddie, would you take it? So I'm going to ask it to his podcast god, Danny. What are we thinking?
Well, who's going to want to come in for him? He's so raw at the moment, and I think Eddie is an intelligent kid. His goal ratio when he was even last season when he was dipping in and out of the under-23s, I think he got about 7 goals in 9 games. I can't remember offhand, but it's something like that. And he would look at the situation at the club, and he will look at an international, a bloke who's played the high levels like Lacazette, and he will go, oh my God, I'm going to learn so much from this bloke if I stay here. He doesn't want to go out. Even when he was sent out on loan, he sat on the bench for Leeds, with Leeds for ages, and Bamford was getting all those games. He wasn't getting the minutes, and he must have been thinking, hold on, I'm coming from a mid-table Premier League team to come and play for Leeds.
The Leeds loan was so stupid. Like,
they're only ever going to play one bloke up front. That's the Bielsa's way, isn't it? It's madness. But if Eddie was looking at the moment, we've got Tyrese, we've got Eddie, we've got Balogun, all of a similar situation. They're all young men coming through. Tyrese gone out on loan, got injured, hasn't been able to play much. Eddie's gone out on loan, waited his time, come back, taking his chances in the first team. Now Balogun is talking about leaving, and then we've seen. When you look at the 3 brothers, Oh, the Willocks. We've got Willock the younger at the club at the moment. We've got the middle one and the older one. One went to Man United, one went to Benfica. Now look at them. One of them's back playing in the Championship and the other one's on loan at West Brom because Willock stayed at the club. He's taken his time to learn his trade, learn from the other players, side of his time, and look at him. He's working.
Yeah, one of them was at Gillingham. And Chris went to Benfica, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then back. So it's I mean, fair play to Balogun if he wants to go and get playing time. I can't question him on it. If he looks at what's ahead of him in Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Nketiah, possibly John Jules, Martinelli is a feasible player there as well. And if Arsenal were even looking for a forward player in the summer as well, then there's a lot of players that are in his way. So whilst I get Kenny's sentiment 100% that we should be keeping our best young talent, I can't question the guy if he wants to leave and go and get playing time. Really good question, Josh. Much appreciated. Mike Hernandez, Drew, says, does Partey have good defensive quality? I worry about the potential of Torreira departing, considering he is our only true DM.
I mean, that should probably be a question for you because you watch him more than I do, but fair enough. All right. Get your fisticuffs ready. But
I've got my pen out.
My understanding is that he's not a straight DM. He's more of a combative box-to-box player. So he's not going to be the type of, player that he'll be closer to an N'Golo Kante that you'll see him running up and down and contributing in those particular parts of the pitch where he's present, but he's not just going to sit and shield like people think. That's not really where he excels. That's my understanding. And I do think he does like to kind of get forward and get involved, but and he's pretty decent on the ball. He can actually ping in decent passes as well from what I've seen. So I think his defensive qualities are going to be different. It's going to be like a mix between Fabinho and Naby Keita as an example that Premier League fans might be able to correlate to themselves. So, but I think it's kind of what you need. I think having midfielders that excel defensively is a good thing, but you also need them to be able to contribute more, which is why someone like Fabinho is as good to see is because he can do other things than just winning the ball and laying it off to somebody. I think those days are done. So, he's just a more modern equivalent of what a more modern defensive midfielder would be. That would be my take on him, but you're welcome to tell me I'm wrong. Go right ahead.
We'll go for a B+.
I'll take it. I will take a B+.
No, just to give a little bit more background, he's mainly played this season. He has played at defensive midfield mainly because they didn't replace Rodri, who left for Manchester City. Previously, though, he was playing, as you say, as the way you described it, as more of a box-to-box midfielder. He has developed his game in a forward sense so much since he's come on from being a youngster. For me, in the system that we're playing, he slots in when we lose Ceballos absolutely perfectly. A combination of him and Xhaka provide you so much physicality in the midfield and still the adventure to go forwards. And obviously, you've got Xhaka with the passing that sprays about. Thomas Partey can brilliantly travel with the ball after recovering possession too. So a midfield of those two in a back three with two wing backs really sort of excites me in that 100%. Kenny, let's find a question for you. Let's go for... John also followed up by saying, Danny, what did you have for dinner? And you told us you had McDonald's earlier on Saturday. But Kenny, Uroš Josic, I hope I pronounced that right, mate. I'm sorry if I haven't. Says, should Arsenal go for Ake if Bournemouth get relegated?
To be honest, I've got my eye on another centre half. I do admire Ake. I've always wanted someone who's a stopper, someone who just basically just defends and knows how to defend and they can actually organise defence. And the player that I had in question is Lewis Dunk of Brighton. I've been watching him for the last 2 years, and I just haven't used watching him when he's been playing Arsenal. I've also been watching him other games, obviously on TV. But he is the centre half that Arsenal should be going for. Definitely, he's got the experience now of playing in the league for the last three seasons. Also, another thing as well, he gives us leadership as well. And I think if you're looking at defend up and coming defenders that you can think that can improve the football club, Lewis Dunk's the man we should go for. In terms of Ake, I do understand. Like he's left-footed. He's played in a very poor Bournemouth side, but he's not the player that I'll be interested in.
No, that's fair enough. I like Ake a lot. I just think that he would command a fee that is not really in the realms of what we're going for positionally this summer. I think the main financial bulk is going to go on the midfield and most likely will be Partey. So we'll have to have a look at what happens. I think defensively we're so stocked in terms of centre-backs. I know that Arsenal fans want to get rid of a fair few of them, but realistically how many you can shift and if you can find buyers for all of them is a really sort of big problem.
What about Ndidi? Why isn't anyone talking about Ndidi for Arsenal?
Again, Premier League prices, I reckon he'd go for so much that Arsenal, and if Leicester drive an extremely hard bargain, we saw that of Harry Maguire. I mean, even when we tried to go for Vardy, who had a 20 million buyout clause, we didn't get him when we paid that much. So they drive a really hard bargain. So but it's a completely fair shout. He is an exceptional midfielder in my eyes and would be a complete steal if we got him. Owen Young, one of our members, fantastic writer. Go check out some of his stuff. Question for Danny. Says 3 ins, 3 outs this summer. Go. No pressure, mate.
Well, I'm going to have to use the man with the umlauts. I'm not going to mention his name. I want him to go because he's just ruining the club with the money and everything. It's just everything he's Wenger era. As much as this is the bad part of the Wenger era, he's done. He's broken on the inside. Kolasinac, because we got him for free. If we flog him, we've made some extra money, and he doesn't really fit into the new system. I must say that bit by saying that we like Arteta likes to play a left-footed centre back at left side. I got that from Drew. I didn't make that up myself because he said that on a show that it was on recently. And Guendouzi, you're going to get good money for him. He's a bit of a tit. I nearly used a rude word there. He's cocky. He sums up the youth of today. He's just irritates me in midfield that you either get the ball, you give the ball, or you assist with the ball, and he doesn't do any of those things. He doesn't score, he doesn't assist, he doesn't do anything apart from get on my bloody nerves. Then, I agree with Ken to buy Ake or Dunk because Josh keeps going on about him and saying how good he is. Although, as much as I do like Suarez, I like Suarez as a utility player, so I think we still need a strong right back. And Max Aarons, although he did cost me the competition at the week on Friday night because it's a win. And then a really good DM. We're not going to get Partey because why is Partey going to come to play for Arsenal?
You don't think we're going to get him? You don't think?
We haven't got the money, have we? We're no longer shopping at Marks and Sparks. We're shopping at Lidl and Aldi and the Poundland. We're going to have to cut our cloth. Apparently, during the COVID thing, someone said we had 150 million in the bank to spend on whatever we want, and now not getting £2 million a game from all from the profits from that, and plus the other things going on. We've got hardly any money, and you've seen Chelsea and Man United and Man City. They're just going and buying everybody up. So if anyone's any good, like you were saying, I'd love to have Ndidi in there. He's like a better Kante, but we're never ever going to get him. If they can get £80 million for Slabhead, how much are they going to want for a player like him? We've got no chance. Plus, I'd like to invest the money in the young men we got coming through and give them long-term contracts because, believe me, those are the future of Arsenal. We ain't eating at the big table anymore. I'm not even sure that's the same.
No, it is 100%. I think you might be surprised about Partey. I genuinely think there is legs in this one. I think it's down to his desire to play in the Premier League. I think he looks at the Arteta project quite fondly. And I think that Arsenal will be looking at the players that they've got as assets to sell to buy, even though Arteta said that Arsenal shouldn't be a club that has to do that. I think if we're being realistic, they are. And I think that Guendouzi's situation has accelerated the Partey situation for sure. I know that Simeone is actually quite a fond admirer of Guendouzi. So if they sort out a swap deal with that included, it would be great, wouldn't it? Fantastic question came in from Christopher Fung for Drew. He says, for Drew, since he's a Bundesliga fan, I've noticed that we haven't been recruiting German talent in a while. Is it a lost cause given that most of the talented youngsters all want to play for Bayern?
I just answered it in the chat, but I guess that was only a 200-character answer. Essentially, there's no massive pull in Germany for German players to leave to go play in England. It doesn't exist there. The Bundesliga is still it's a top 3 league in the world. They have massive clubs. Bayern are huge. Dortmund are getting quite huge. RB Leipzig's an interesting project. The way they still look after younger players and giving them opportunities. There's no big rush. Players like Toni Kroos are an exception to the rule. Most of them, they can get to a high level, they'll stay domestic. That's why most of them are still staying there. And Yeah, I mean, and Timo Werner coming to Chelsea again, it could start changing with the younger generation now. You know, that might be a different scenario because now they get so much exposure, especially in Germany as well. And we don't know the state of German football where it's going to go. That might change, but I personally think Werner just went for the money, and I think he wanted to go to Liverpool. When that kind of fell through, I think he almost was forced to leave because of how he shopped himself in the market.
Yeah.
I mean, he met with Klopp. That's confirmed. They sat down. They were trying to bring him to Liverpool, and his demands were too much in terms of what he wanted for guaranteed play time and the contract he wanted. And Klopp just said, never mind. So at that point, because he put himself in the window, he kind of had to leave. So he went to Chelsea. But yeah, no, I just feel like it's unfortunate because you can still shop in the Bundesliga. You might not be able to get German players. There's still plenty of other players. French players from the Bundesliga will absolutely come to the Premier League. The Dutch players will absolutely come to the Premier League. So there's still other options. But getting the actual German talent is going to be pretty difficult because Bayern still have a pull on the entire country in terms of like the pinnacle is going to play for Bayern Munich. That's it. It's been that way for decades. But now you have Dortmund, same thing. Julian Brandt could have gone anywhere, but he chose to go to Dortmund instead of. He could have come to us. He could have come to other Premier League teams. Liverpool had interest. He chose Dortmund. So they still have a lot of sway domestically. So yeah, I we can still look, but I think we're probably better off looking elsewhere, unless they're not German. So.
Yeah, and it's, as you say, it's not down to their quality. It's just down to the desire to want to move to England. And I think that's probably a big credit to how the Bundesliga has changed. I think that even though we talk about Bayern as a never-ending sort of dominant force, the actual development of players in Germany, you might want to correct me, is improving a lot. And German players wanting to stay in Germany is always a good thing for a nation internationally as well. And it's something that, whilst I think in England has happened too heavily, and we're starting to see things change with the likes of Jadon Sancho moving abroad and Bellingham, of course, from Birmingham, who looks to be going to Dortmund as well. That's going to be really good internationally speaking for England, whilst keeping your best players within the country's league and having that harmonious relationship as a squad is good. I think that, as you say, we should be targeting players in other areas. There's also another question for you, Drew, which came from Michael Hernandez, which is brilliant. He says, for Drew specifically, does Ozil get paid too much? I don't really want the question answered. I just want to see Drew's reaction to the question.
I would say.
You don't want an answer, mate.
No, I'm going to answer it anyway. This is what you get. This is what happens. So he gets paid too much now. He didn't when he was performing, but now he definitely does get paid too much.
Okay, fair enough. There's loads of people that want to ask you questions that just to get a reaction from you. I don't know what this is. It's just quite funny. Let's try and find a couple more questions before we wrap things up. No, that's for Drew. That's for Drew. Everyone wants to get your reaction. Lee Farrell, Kenny says, would you like to bring Santi Cazorla back as a coach next season? I'd like to bring him back as a player with the way that things have been going, personally.
As a player, obviously, how much I love Santi. He's probably
How'd you say his name?
Best.
How'd you say his name?
Cafola. Yeah, Santiago Cafola. Yeah, I like to see obviously, as a player, he's probably one of the best two-footed players I've seen for a while. But as a coach, I don't see why not. He's got a lot of experience, not just of playing for Arsenal, but also, playing abroad. And also, he's won things with his national side. So if he can come back as a coach, I'll definitely have Santi's, Cafola at Arsenal at any time, in any capacity, because I think I want good coaches, but I also want people who are good mentors as well for our players. And that's one of the reasons, if we change the subject a little bit, I don't have a problem with David Luiz staying at the football club because I know that he's highly thought of in the dressing room. And I think that Santiago Cafola is highly thought of with the youngsters as well. What a lot of these youngsters need alongside Mikel's, future coaching, they also need mentors as well who, like I said, do things the right way on and off the pitch. And I think having Santiago at the club will be a fantastic decision, as well as keeping David Luiz at the club as well. These youngsters haven't won anything. They haven't been playing big games. Santiago and David have. And I think that's why, moving forward, these are the sort of people we want at the football club.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think he's someone that has that connection with the club. He's done really well since going back to Villarreal. I mean, if anyone saw his goal, I said this before on a podcast, but if anyone saw his goal against Valencia, not his goal, sorry, his assist against Valencia where he set up Gerard Moreno was absolutely brilliant. The touch, the run was just so Santi-esque, and just the way he cushioned the ball on for his Spanish compatriot was just brilliant. There was a question for Danny in here. I'm just trying to see if I've just scrolled up. I can't find it now. There was a question asking about kits. Danny, what do you make of the new kits?
I think they are fattest because they don't do any that are 8XL, so they're dead to me. All of them.
That's very.
And I can't afford to sew two together. And I can't
Can you not put slits down the side?
Yeah, I could wear it as what's those things Beckham used to wear that you wear in sarongs.
Sarongs.
Right. Is it? Yeah. I could make one of them out of it. But I might scare the ladies. But kits-wise, first kit, red and white. Away kit, blue and yellow. Never change from that. Third kit, have a competition. Involve the Arsenal community. Let them design it and let us vote on the kits. Stop these multinational companies making up stupid kits for us. Some of them are fantastic. I think were you wearing the white one recently on something, Drew? The one I always imagine with Bentner written on the back of it. I'm sure you were. Well, it was either you or Josh. Someone. I love that. You shouldn't like the white kits, but I really like that one. Bentner.
Signatures across it.
It's got what?
It's got loads of signatures across it. It's got like the burgundy trim. Is that the one you're on about?
Yeah, burgundy trim, white with burgundy bits around the sleeves as well. As for the kits, I don't bother. I mean, the last time I bought a kit was probably the Dreamcast one, and I've still got all my kits in one of the Ottomans here. But no, I don't really care about kits. The kits are there to make. Also, another thing I would do with kits, I'd bring it in-house. We make our own kits, and then we can have a say in absolutely everything. Some clubs do it, and then it works. But we're never going to make the money that the companies like Puma and Adidas give us, are we? So this is why I don't run a club, Dom, because I don't know what the hell I'm on about.
Yeah, I mean, Owen Young asked that question about I know he's asked me because I put on Twitter is that I can't stand when a kit changes the badge, like the Arsenal badge is suddenly blue or gold or yellow, and I was like, why? Just don't change the badge. It's the one thing that's sacred. Well, it's not even sacred anymore because they modernised it, but still keep the badge the same on all the kits. I don't get why we need to change it.
We did it back in the 90s as well, because when I've got half a tattoo on my right leg because it hurt too much, and that was going to be the home badge. And on the away kit, the badge was a slightly different set of colours. So they
did half and half tattoo.
Only half a tattoo, Tom, because I'm too much of a wimp to get it done. This was in 91, and I never got it finished because it bloody hurts.
You tell me you've just got arse on your tattoo.
I've got the outline of it, and that's when I only passed out, so you had to stop.
Imagine you've got half of Arsenal, and it's just the one half that says arse. That'd be amazing.
You can share it.
Yeah, that's 100%. Send it over. Okay, so that is where we're going to wrap things up in regards to questions. Last bit of the show is obviously looking ahead to our next game and getting a prediction from the guys ahead of Leicester. So, Drew, Leicester City at home, they are revitalised or refreshed, as John said on our Plus Members podcast earlier on today. What do you think is going to happen, and what score are you going for?
I mean, obviously, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm not omnipotent, but I think the question is going to be again for them. It's what I want to see happen is I want to see Arteta go for their engine room and kind of really try to shut down the creative presences that they do have in the side. If we can cut the supply to Jamie Vardy, I think we'll win easily, because if you look at the nature of the goal scoring, it's essentially Vardy and then whoever else decides to maybe want to score that day, which aren't very many people. So, but we have to cut off the supply. So if we look to shape the midfield to kind of control someone like a Youri Tielemans, for example, Harvey Barnes, those type of players, if we can kind of get that hammered down, I think we'll be quite comfortable. They've been kind of struggling as of late, and there's not a much better time to play them right now, especially with, where we seem to also be revitalized and refreshed as well and making progress under Arteta. So I'm going to go with 2-1 to us, actually, and I'm going to go for a cheeky locket brace. So.
Nice, like it. That would be a turn up for the books, it's probably fair to say. Kenny, how are we feeling?
Thing about Leicester is that if you look at their record against the bigger teams away from home, they haven't got much joy at all. They got beaten at Anfield. They got beaten at Old Trafford. Man City turn them over. They haven't played Spurs yet. They've got a draw against Chelsea. So I'm going to be very confident. At the moment, Leicester are still struggling in terms of getting it's like getting their midfielders, their full midfield out. And I don't think that their creative players are going to be playing on Tuesday anyway. And in terms of Leicester, one of the things I do like about us playing Leicester is that the game, they always seem to be open games. Leicester, for some reason, generally believes that they just come to win all the time. They come to attack. So I think it's going to be a very open game. And I think because of the space I think Leicester are going to give us, I think it'll be 3-1 to us, just like last season. It's going to be a very good game. Vardy's is going to get a bit of joy, but that's one of the things that we should be doing, is trying to cut off the supply, and then on a turnover, like I said, give their players a bit of work. Because remember, they're missing their best right back, Pereira, and I think the guy Justin's struggling a bit. He doesn't give them enough going forward like Pereira's giving them. So for me, we should be attacking their right hand side, and I think we'll murder them if we're on their game.
Prediction?
3-1 Arsenal.
Good stuff. Danny?
I was looking at this the other day. Jamie Vardy, up until he got a couple against Palace, had scored in one game in his last 16 games. That is a hell of a run. Then I was looking at the away form for Leicester. They've won 1 out of their last 6 games. They went to Newcastle and won. They lost to 1-0 away at Norwich. They lost. They drew away at Watford. 2 poor teams, and us at home, we've won 5 out of our last 6. We are on fire. We've got all of our best players playing. If we play 3 at the back, then that system's all set up. Everyone knows what they're doing. Martinez is indefensible. That's not the right. Unbeatable at the moment. Really, really confident for the whole team. I reckon it's going to be a bit of a slobber knocker because we both tend to score a lot of goals. They score a lot away. We score a lot at home. I think maybe 3-2. It's going to be a great game. Yeah, I think we're easily going to win it. Although 3-2 doesn't sound easy, but I think we will.
I was going to say 3-2 sounds like the most tricky, easiest score I've ever heard.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to go for a 1-0 Cedric to score. That's becoming a new TGT. Stop shaking your head, boy. It's becoming a new TGT prediction. So that's what I'm going to go for. 1-0 Cedric. I love that. I think it will be more than that, to be honest. I'm looking forward to the game a lot more than I was 2 weeks ago, coming full circle of how we finished off. We started off the show earlier on, but it's been a real pleasure to chat with you boys. Drew, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, my friend. I'll see you tomorrow.
Well, you will see me tomorrow. It's always good to be here. I'm glad Kenny came on for once. It's good to see his face. So thanks for coming, buddy.
The irony.
It's always good to talk, Drew. We agree on everything except for one thing. One thing we don't agree on. That's one thing.
To wear.
But yeah, it's nice to be back as well. I think what it is that we're going to see the best of Mikel if we do next season, when he has a sort of identify a way of playing. If Mikel wants to play the way that Man City plays, then he needs to have defenders who are good on the ball. And I think that's one of the reasons why David is in the side, is because his ability on the ball and be able to start attacks from any area of the pitch. And I think Man City do that probably the best in the world. A la Barcelona previously, where they are able to start attacks from anywhere apart from, especially from their goal line. And I think that's where Mikel has to be looking for. He needs to look for defenders who are good on the ball and can defend. But ultimately, if he wants to play like the Utopia, that is in his intro for next season and moving forward.
Thank you, Kenny. Really appreciate taking the time out of your evening to come on the show.
Thank you very much. Enjoy myself.
Good stuff. That's all I asked for. Danny, it's been a pleasure to have you back on the show.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah,
cheers, Tom. I've really just figured out I spent more time with Kenny and Drew in the last month talking to them than I've with my own offspring. So I've been abandoned. No longer wants to know me.
Trade? Would you trade?
Well, if Kenny brings the pineapple juice, I think we could be talking.
Nah. You got to watch Danny in quizzes, because what's happening now is that he zonal marks me whenever I do anything, and so he knows that if I get a question right, at least he'll get a point.
That's it. Always agree with him.
The Mr. Arsenal podcast, Ryan is in the chat, so make sure you go check out his show as well.
Ryan.
loads of the quizzes that he's doing. It's been really good entertainment for everyone during this lockdown period, as I hope this podcast has for you as well. If it has, please make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, which is strange because everyone seems so familiar with things now. But if you are new, please be a subscriber and join us and click that notification button so you never miss a show and get notified. And also, if you would like to help support the channel with all the things going on and get access to exclusive content, which is going to be out tomorrow morning for our Plus and Expert members, with my chat with John, talking about loads of things around the Premier League and Arsenal as well. So if you want to get access to that, click that join button. If you're having trouble working it out, drop us a DM over at the Gooner Talk TV and Twitter, and I will talk you through it. It's been a real pleasure chatting to these guys, and you will see you again very, very soon tomorrow for the podcast and preview. But other than that, and as always, up the Arsenal.